Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to put on our detective hats. Seriously, we are investigating one of the most baffling mysteries of the modern world. And no, I'm not talking about who keeps stealing your lunch from the break room fridge. We are looking at workplace productivity. Every organization is basically this massive, breathing ecosystem of human beings, and figuring out what actually drives them, well, that's the ultimate key to success.
So think about this. Why do two employees with the exact same skills perform completely differently? I mean, you've probably seen it yourself, right? One person is a total superstar, carrying the whole team, while the other is kind of just scraping by. Human unpredictability at work is a puzzle, for sure. But it's a puzzle we absolutely have to solve if we want our organizations to succeed. Because if we can't figure out why people act the way they do, we really can't manage them, motivate them, or help them thrive.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap, kind of our decoder ring for today. We'll start with why we behave at work, then look through the 4 lenses of organizational behavior. After that, we'll break down the Mars model, analyze the forces that shape our actions, and finally look at managing the modern workplace. Jumping right into Section 1, why we behave at work, unlocking the mystery of workplace behavior.
The core premise here is actually pretty simple, but it's profound. Every organization, no matter how huge or how heavily automated it is fundamentally made up of individuals. And organizational behavior is this interdisciplinary field that studies how our individual differences in thoughts, feelings, and behavior influence productivity, teamwork, and overall success. Just take a second and think about your own team right now. Think about all those different quirks and personalities. Getting a grip on this concept is literally the bedrock for how managers can actually motivate those specific people, resolve those inevitable conflicts, and build a positive environment. It's basically the science of making the workplace work.
Moving right along to Section 2, 4 lenses of organizational behavior. These are the fundamental tools to crack the code. And this brilliantly illustrates how we do it. Because this field borrows from a whole bunch of different sciences, we can't just look at an employee from a single angle. We have to swap out different academic lenses to get a full 360-degree view of the human being in front of us. First, we put on the lens of psychology. That helps us understand the individual's mind, their emotions, and what personally motivates them. Then we zoom out a bit with sociology to look at the group, how that individual handles teamwork, communication, and the broader company culture. Next up is anthropology, which gives us the lens of human culture and diversity. This one is absolutely crucial for managing multicultural teams globally. And finally, political science helps us decode all those power dynamics, authority, and, yep, office politics that exist in literally every organization. Putting it all together, these 4 lenses give managers a truly comprehensive understanding of their teams.
Which brings us to Section 3, the Mars model explained. This is the core solution formula for employee performance.
If you really want to know why someone is acting a certain way, you run it through the Mars equation. And I do mean equation, because the Mars model creates this incredible domino effect across 4 specific steps: motivation, ability, role perception, and situational factors. The catch is, all 4 of these traits have to perfectly align and trigger one another for an employee to actually succeed. If even a single element is missing, the entire formula just collapses. So let's break these down one by one.
Domino number 1 is motivation. These are the internal forces that influence an employee's direction, intensity, and persistence toward hitting their goals. We're talking about that fire inside, right? Like the person who voluntarily stays late to perfect a client pitch just because they take absolute pride in it. Now, organizations can't exactly just buy this fire, but they can definitely foster it through proper recognition, offering truly meaningful work, and giving people clear paths for career growth. Let's move to and see how this builds with the second domino, ability. This represents an individual's knowledge, skills, competencies, and natural talents. And here is the somewhat harsh reality of the Mars model. You can have an employee with sky-high motivation who is just desperate to succeed, but without the right skills, proper training, and actual ability, they are still going to fail. That's why organizations have to invest heavily in continuous learning and mentoring to actually back up their team's motivation with real capability. All right, the third domino is role perception. This simply means an employee has a clear understanding of their job responsibilities, expectations, and priorities. Just imagine having an incredibly motivated, highly skilled employee who doesn't actually know what you want them to do. It happens all the time. That blurry role perception leads to duplicated work, massive confusion, and eventually some pretty sharp workplace conflict.
Total clarity for management is non-negotiable here.
And finally, the last domino, situational factors. These are the external conditions, things like resources, technology, or time constraints that heavily influence behavior but are totally beyond the employee's control. Imagine you have that motivated, skilled employee who knows exactly what their role is, but they have an ancient computer that crashes every hour and a totally unsupportive manager. That lack of situational support creates a massive brick wall that the employee simply cannot climb no matter how hard they try. So remember, all 4 Mars factors must align perfectly.
That takes us right into Section 4, forces that shape our actions. This is the broader ecosystem of influence.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it frames that broader ecosystem. Think of it like a constant weather system exerting pressure on employee behavior. On one side, we have internal forces. These are psychological factors, meaning an employee's personality, their attitudes, and crucially, their emotional intelligence. But obviously, those internal feelings don't exist in a vacuum. They are constantly colliding with external forces. We're talking physical factors like office lighting and safety, mixed with organizational factors like leadership styles, company culture, and reward mechanisms. If an employee's high emotional intelligence is constantly getting battered by a toxic company culture and terrible physical working conditions, well, their behavior is going to change for the worse.
And if we step outside the office walls entirely, we run into these massive macro-environmental forces, what we call the pestle framework. This means an employee's behavior is quietly being pulled by political, tax policies, economic stress from soaring inflation, social demographic shifts, technological disruptions like AI, ecological climate pressures, and legal labor laws. The outside world always leaks into the office. Every single one of these factors exerts this kind of hidden gravitational pull on how your team shows up to work every single day.
Moving to our final section, Section 5, Managing the Modern Workplace. It's time to apply all these concepts to today's reality. Managers today are dealing with a lot. They are juggling remote and hybrid work models that fundamentally change how we interact with each other. They are integrating artificial intelligence, fighting some really intense global competition, and managing rapidly changing employee expectations. Because of this massive rise in digital tools and decentralized teams, actually decoding behavioral frameworks like the Mars model is way more critical now for building high-performing teams than it ever was back in the traditional office era.
So the crucial point is this: every single employee is unique. Successful managers are the ones who recognize those differences rather than just treating everyone exactly the same. Understanding individual behavior isn't just some nice-to-have HR concept, right? It is the absolute foundation of effective management, high productivity, and long-term business success. When you apply those 4 lenses, balance out the Mars model, and account for the environmental weather systems we talked about, you create an organization where people can truly thrive.
I want to leave you with this final, critical thought based on our investigation today. If every employee is fundamentally unique, driven by their own incredibly complex combination of psychology, ability, and environmental factors, is your organization actually treating them like individuals or just replaceable cogs in a machine? Really think about that the next time you log on or walk into the office. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.